American psychologist Abraham Maslow once said, "The story of the human race is the story of men and women selling themselves short." The Income Generation airs each week to provide you with knowledge so you don't sell yourself short. We're going to be talking a lot today about being all you can be and not relying too much on other entities. There is nothing more empowering than feeling self-sufficient. But you should also know thy limitations. As Socrates has said, know thyself. There is a fine balance between knowing yourself and knowing your limitations. When you need it, seek help. But learn enough so you don't just blindly follow advice from others. It always helps to have a good understanding before talking to a specialist in any category. I've personally gotten a lot from the great thinkers through the generations. In fact, my guest today is widely viewed as a current-day great thinker. He has a broad following and has been called upon by world leaders for his input on many of the topics that we'll be discussing today. To again quote Maslow, "If you plan on being anything less than you are capable of being, you will probably be unhappy all the days of your life." I'm sure you'll agree that this is true. That's why I'm sure we're all in for an hour that may serve to increase your happiness, even if just a bit. You know, there was a time when Americans had no choice but to rely on themselves. But America has always been a country that's so rich in freedom and resources and information that finding your own way was possible even when it wasn't easy. It became part of our values and even celebrated by artists and writers such as Ralph Waldo Emerson. That self-sufficiency included building family and friends for support, or perhaps having a trade or working farm that could be handed down through the generations. Or building a home for shelter and warmth and making sure you had food to get yourself through the winter. The government was simply not there to bail you out if you failed, but instead to create a set of laws it enforced in order to help you succeed. To succeed and retain what you worked for. Later, as the country grew and became richer because of all the individual successes, and a small level of protection was then provided to some by churches and benevolent associations such as the Elks and the Freemasons. Over time, a broader and broader, more institutionalized safety net had been created. The best known, of course, is Social Security. Social Security is seen as a positive for society, but Americans may have become too reliant on this retirement supplement. Another safety net were defined benefit pension plans funded by employers. These became common and grew as the labor movement grew. Today, companies that offer traditional pensions have become fewer and fewer each year. As we talk about in a few minutes, these plans, although a great idea, may not be without risks to those who rely upon them. The safety net also includes employee-funded 401ks and 403bs. These are primarily employee-funded, sometimes with a company match, but always with a tax benefit for each. They rely heavily on investment options that are essentially mutual funds. As with all other safety net options that have been created over time, mutual funds were once an answer to a difficult problem. Mutual funds are now seen by many as fraught with problems. This installment of the Income Generation will spend a lot of time discussing these problems today. So, as we've been encouraged over recent years to each become more and more of a do-it-yourselfer and put more of the burden on our shoulders, discount brokerage firms have also arisen. Firms like E-Trade, TD Ameritrade, Schwab, and so on. These firms cut trading costs, but as we discover later, doing so may just be at a price. Subsequently, many newsletters have popped up or expanded their customer base to help the do-it-yourself investor as well. Perhaps you read Kiplinger's or Motley Fool or one of the others. Now, I'm not going to pass judgment today, but a bit later we'll talk about how to discern investment advice from what I like to call investotainment. We're going to immerse ourselves for the next 60 minutes with the idea of balancing self-reliance with help from others.